Yesterday we took a 2.5-hour train ride down the Rhine River from Bonn, Germany to Mainz. And when we were coming here, we were kind of expecting like a smaller town right on the river, like a really cute little quaint town.
But oh boy, were we wrong. This is actually quite the metropolitan area. Nothing like we've seen in NRW, but it's still so unique. There's about 200,000 people who live in Mainz, and it was just totally not what we expected at all.
And on top of that, this is actually a really, really historically rich city. This was a place that was kind of founded by the Romans, and it's so crazy because we've been to Sofia now, we've been to Budapest, all of these places where the Roman Empire was. It's just crazy to think of like all the land we've covered and how giant that empire was. That is how Mainz started. And from there, there's also countless examples of really important human history here, including one of the most important inventions in human history.
So it is Easter Sunday, and typically in Germany, on Sundays anyways, everything is usually closed except restaurants. We're thinking that we might have Mainz to ourselves, honestly. There's a lot to do outside.
So unfortunately, a lot of the museums and everything are going to be closed, but there's still plenty to do, as Sydney said, and plenty to see.
Before we get too far, we want to mention this incredible cathedral behind us. This is the Mainzer Dome, which is the Mainz Cathedral. The cathedral is over 1,000 years old, and over the years it's had to be reconstructed a few times. It was heavily bombed in the wars, but look at it now. It's beautiful as ever.
We're here at the Gutenberg Museum. As we mentioned, one of the most important inventions in human history.
And what did he do?
I kind of nerd out about this a little bit because you can really think about the impact that one person, Johann Gutenberg, had on our entire species. When people think of like the most important inventions in human history, it's the printing press, it's medicine, it's air travel, and then it's the internet. Yeah. Those four things are like the big four. So this was the first of the big four. The printing press was actually invented right here in Mainz, Germany. There were kind of examples of print before that, but this was the first where it had like movable type, movable script, so you could kind of like decide where on the page things were. The Gutenberg Bible is famous for being like the first example of a physical Bible. And then from there, of course, we got newspapers and we got all of those different things that changed the way that humans receive information on scale.
Gutenberg really put Mainz on the map then.
Put a lot of things on the map, yeah, not just Mainz, but it's cool that it happened here in Mainz. And I'm kind of sad that the museum's closed today because it's Easter, but I'm sure that, you know, it's a very, very interesting thing to do because the impact of this guy, it's amazing.
I was hoping for Germany to have an Easter market, kind of similar to how they celebrate Christmas with all those markets, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Mainz has one.
So we've now made it almost halfway down the west side of the country, but believe it or not, we are still on the same river as we were in Dusseldorf and Cologne and Bonn. This is the Rhine River, and it is just kind of crazy how far this goes down this side of the country. What's interesting about Mainz, and we talked about how it was a really important fortification area for the Holy Roman Empire and then eventually the Germans as well. This is where the Rhine River and the Main River kind of converge. And so the Main River heads east towards Frankfurt. Frankfurt has one of Germany's most notable skylines. So a lot of people refer to Frankfurt as Manhattan because, like Manhattan, it has all the big buildings, but it's on the Main River. So this is where the Rhine and the Main converge.
We've seen so many airplanes fly over Mainz and heading east, very, very low. So we looked it up, and the Frankfurt airport is only 17 minutes away by train.
That is one of the largest transportation hubs in all of Europe. It's kind of the corridor from the US for a lot of people. Absolutely.
So if you're stuck in Frankfurt on a layover, come to Mainz. It's
absolutely
17 minutes away. Mainz is located in Rhineland-Pfalz.
I think that's how you say it in German. I forgot how to say it in English,
But apparently this region is not only known for their beer, but also for their wine. I know on the train ride down here yesterday, we passed so many vineyards, which would be a cool thing to check out here. So maybe we'll have to have some Riesling.
A few moments later.
See, Sydney.
So speaking of wine, we just stopped at this little wine hut on the river here. and they had Riesling on the menu. Now back home, we drink Riesling, we drink sweet Riesling on Christmas, but in Hamburg we were introduced to the sour Riesling, so let's see if this is sweet or sour. It's sour. It's very nice.
I've never really been much of a wine guy, I'll admit it, but I'm starting to like it more because I'm trying it more. One tip I did learn from my German friend Max. So I would always hold the glass like this, but apparently you're not supposed to do that. Especially with white wine that's supposed to be chilled, the warmth from your fingers makes the wine not as cold. You hold it from the stem, the more you know. So we briefly mentioned how Mainz was a very important settlement for the Roman Empire. Believe it or not, there are still artifacts and areas that are from that time period. So we've walked up here to see the Citadel, which is one of the more famous landmarks here in Mainz. It's been here since the 16th century, and it's so cool how it sits on top of this hill and just kind of overlooks the entire city. This is also one of the most beautiful views of Mainz.
It's really cool. You can see the river valley foothills in the distance. It's cool to be in this part of Germany. We've seen a little bit different of terrain down here than versus Hamburg and in our W area.
We found it. This is the Drususstein, which is a tower constructed by the Romans. It still stands today. I thought you were able to actually go on top of it to see the whole view of the city, but it looks like they have it closed off right now, unfortunately. Pretty cool though to think how long this has been here. So we've arrived at the main event. These are remains from a theater built by the Romans. It's estimated that this was the largest theater north of the Alps, and there were comedies and tragedies performed here. It's so crazy to think how long this foundation has been here. Something that's really stood out for me so far about Mainz is just the juxtaposition between the old and the new. We kind of talked about this with Sofia, Bulgaria as well. You can see a train station right behind where this theater, where the foundation for the theater was. And similar to that in Sofia, we saw a subway station where there were remains of an old church from the Roman town of Serdica. So it's just so crazy to think about this empire stretched all over this continent, and this continent is gigantic, and this was back in like the 1st century and even BC as well. Something that's really hard to wrap your mind around. So every time we get the chance to see Roman ruins, gotta take advantage. It's also so crazy to me that they had such an advanced society for so long ago. I mean, the idea that they were having plays, just entertainment for people, that they had that time for leisure. All right, now it's time to change it up a little bit. We've seen a lot of history, and one of my favorite quotes that Sydney's ever said.
All this history, I don't know about you, but it's making me thirsty.
Prost, everyone. We just stopped at Eisgrub Brewery. This brewery itself started in 1989, but the location we're at, this is the site of the first Mainz brewery. So on the coaster here, you can see where it says One Mainzer Gasthaus Brauerei. When we saw that, we were thinking, okay, it means like it's #1, like it's the best. But actually, 1872, this exact site was the first brewery here in Mainz. So cheers to that. This is some really good beer. This is kind of like their house brew. They had 2 different kinds. So when you ordered, they asked Helles oder Schwarz, which means light or black. So this is the light beer. Just such a full flavor. I'm kind of intrigued by the Schwarz as well, but that's not really Sydney's bag, so let's stick with the Helles for now. Also, you can't have German beer without German pretzels. Oh, they're warm. I think we have to get some mustard though. The epitome of Germany right here. Perfect. A lot of people think, you know, in a touristy way, think about Germany as just pretzels and beer. But what I will say about both of these, there's a lot more to Germany, first of all. A lot more. But one thing I will say about German pretzels and German beer, the US doesn't even come close. I mean, this is so much better in both counts.
So I would say Mainz is a lot more catered to tourists, and that just comes with it being such like a quaint little town. It's different than what you would see in Bonn, Cologne, and Dusseldorf. We were actually given like English menus, which usually doesn't really happen unless you're really in a touristy area.
I've also heard a lot more like American English. It might be Canadian, we never know for sure, but it seems like there's a lot of Americans here, and we haven't really noticed that since Budapest. here we are at the Kirschgarten, which means cherry garden.
It honestly looks like you just stepped into a fairy tale. They've got these like half-timbered houses, what you would think of typically as a German-looking structure.
What a cool place. This is actually like one of the more German things I think we've seen.
It's very charming.
So as we're walking down this beautiful cobblestone street with all of these amazing brownstone houses and the Holzturm in the back, that's a tower that was constructed in 1803. This is going to be our farewell for Mainz. We're only here for a day, so it was a quick turnaround.
Short
but
and sweet.
Really good Easter in Mainz, and I really hope to come back to this quaint little city.
Tomorrow we are heading south to our next destination.
Continuing our German tour, so definitely check out our next video. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate all the support so far and are having a really good time making these videos, so we hope to be able to continue that, and every like and sub helps a ton.
Bye!